Welcome back to LimQ Plus, everyone. On this channel, I have basically already 100% in Breath of the Wild. Not quite. We're doing it by a bit every day until Tears of the Kingdom comes out, which is today in 5 days. The Zonai ruins are the only location I'm still missing. I'm going to take you around Hyrule for a little bit, as I'm going to discuss an interesting topic maybe to some of you. As you know, likely, Tears of the Kingdom is leaked, and I'm personally avoiding spoilers by essentially being mostly offline. I'm working on a video for my main channel, which should be out on Sunday, so tomorrow. At least I'm hoping it will be. I still have some work to do today. But I'm still like lurking in my Discord, where I have mostly muted it. I trust the people in my Discord personally, and I haven't seen any leaks there or whatever. But while going through there, I've got some people asking me, how do you actually do it? Like, how time feels to move. It seems like time moves so much slower now, ever since the leaks. And I get that. Like, at first, I was scared that it would be that way for me. But after coming up with some ideas and tricks, basically, that I'm currently doing, it's actually been pretty easy. And that's mainly been checking out some games from my backlog. And today, I'm going to recommend you one game, depending on why you follow me, that you might be able to start today, and by starting it, before you know it, Tears of the Kingdom will publicly, officially available, that week will be the fastest week of your life. And what do I mean by depending on why you follow me? So basically, I think people are following me, especially on this channel, for multiple reasons. Some will follow me because of my main channel, which is very focused on speedrunning, challenge runs, and breaking Breath of the Wild and explaining it to people. Others will follow this channel purely for the Tears of the Kingdom hype. And then maybe more recently, some people have started following for theory crafting and discussing ideas for Tears of the Kingdom. And for each of these people, I will recommend you one game that I'm currently playing. So a generally good game, it's not necessarily speedrunning, but more like nerdy min-maxing type game, and a game that's very rich with lore and story that I highly recommend. And honestly, specifically that game, if you start that today, Tears of the Kingdom will be out, and you don't even want to move on yet, just because the game I'm about to explain or recommend to you is so amazing. Okay, obviously, not everyone has the same taste. Like, all of these 3 games that I really like, you might dislike, and at the end of the day, you just have to try it out. Maybe trust me a little bit. I can tell you my favorite games, kind of as like a list, right? Let's start with the story lore-driven game. I'll give you my favorite games right now as a list, so you can kind of judge my taste in games, and maybe it's similar to yours. So my top 3 favorite games of all time actually depend on casual playthrough and in general. I always say in general my favorite game of all time is Breath of the Wild. I love this game so much. I met amazing people through it, made amazing memories, and I played it more than every or any other game. But when it just comes to my first casual playthrough, my favorite game is Elden Ring. I've said that multiple times. I have never played a game as religiously as Elden Ring. When it first came out, I would literally sit in my room for 16 hours and play the game, go to bed, and then dream about the game. In bed, look up guides and ideas for builds that I wanted to try out. No, never has a game captured me as much as Elden Ring. I would sit here in front of my screen with my mouth open. I still sometimes cannot believe this game is real. That's not what I'm going to be talking about today. My other game in my top 3, in terms of favorite casual playthroughs, is Hollow Knight. And Hollow Knight is also not what we're going to be talking about. But that's basically my top 3 of games that are really special to me. Hollow Knight, Elden Ring, and Breath of the Wild. I talked about these games before in an episode long ago, but recently another game has made it into my top 5, kind of out of nowhere, and sits now at position number 4. So now you get kind of a taste for what sort of games I like, even though the game I'm about to talk about is actually quite different. But this game just came into my life earlier this year when I was sick and needed to play something, or wanted to play something to distract myself from not feeling well. And that game is Outer Wilds. Now, Outer Wilds I talked about a little bit recently, because a lot of the themes in Outer Wilds really reminded me of some Tears of the Kingdom theories that people were popularly talking about, and even imagery, and just the overall theme that shows up in Outer Wilds. Now, the thing with Outer Wilds is, and everyone will tell you this, Essentially, it's an exploration-based game set in a different, not necessarily universe, but different solar system, where you are an astronaut that gets to explore the space system. That's the solar system. That's kind of all I want to say about it, because everything else is best experienced yourself blindly hopping into the game. But there's one more little bit of information that I want to talk about, because it might entice you if you're interested in Tears of the Kingdom. And that's the main plot of the game, that the reason you are... Again, this is not really a spoiler, it's just the idea of what you're doing in the game. The reason you're exploring space is because you are there to kind of investigate and explore the remains of an ancient species called the Nomai. And yes, they do sound pretty similar to the Zonai. Outer Wilds was technically already in the works before, I think even before Breath of the Wild came out, at the very early stages, so I don't think there was any like taken inspiration from there. But you basically uncover the tracks of this mysterious ancient race, and that alone, if you play the game, you will find a lot more Tears of the Kingdom parallels, in my opinion. I talked about some of them already, but that's like the main idea. So it's an entirely exploration-based game. You go around the solar system, explore, and uncover a huge mystery, and you'll find soon enough that you have to even uncover it if you want to play the game. But that's really all I want to say about it. All I can tell you is that this game consumed me in an insanely quick amount of time. I started the game, and as immediately when I put it down for the first time, I started thinking about it and went back to it, and I beat it relatively quickly. I would honestly say if you start the game today, without rushing too much, it is possible to beat it just before Tears of the Kingdom comes out. And trust me, those days will be eventful and exciting and full of exploration and wonder. Now, again, there is a lot of people out there, obviously, with any game that don't like specific mechanics of the game. So if this doesn't sound interesting to you, maybe look into it like a little bit more and decide if you want to play it, because maybe some more information will entice you to play it. But if this already sounds interesting to you, immediately download the game and play. This is how you will get the most exciting experience. And even if only one single person that's watching this video right now ends up downloading Outer Wilds right now and likes it, I believe that that person will have its wait time until Tears of the Kingdom officially releases just be like evaporated. Like, it's gonna be Friday before you know it when you dive into this world and literal universe. I remember, I feel like this sounds like I'm sponsored by them, but I really, really love this game. A lot of people do. And the crazy part about it is that you only get to experience it once. That's kind of how the game works. So if you want this week to be a special week, that's my recommendation for you. If you like lore, uncovering mysteries, and exploration-based games, and maybe have recently been interested in my theory videos. Now, for the people that like speedrunning, min-maxing, and problem solving, I want to say, the game I've recently been getting into is Honkai Star Rail. And now a lot of red flags will go off for some people, because they may already have heard that this is a game made by HoYoverse, the creators of Genshin Impact. I know that Genshin Impact has kind of like a split reputation in the Breath of the Wild community, as a lot of people are still upset how many ideas they essentially straight up copied from Breath of the Wild. I get it. I personally was able to see past that and enjoy the game for what it is, which is a pretty fun exploration-based game, but with a lot of depth in it when it comes to the combat and maximizing the potential of your characters. And Honkai Star Rail is the same in that regard. The combat is entirely different. It's a turn-based game, similar to Persona-style combat, where you have to expose the enemy's weaknesses and build your team around basically a turn-based combat. But it has, in my opinion, an amazing soundtrack, amazing animations, an interesting cast of characters. It's a really fun game, and I've been playing it like 3 hours some of these days, honestly. If I'm not editing, I'm usually playing Honkai Star Rail right now. This is something that I like. I don't know if you like that sort of gameplay where, yes, you obtain characters, and yes, there's also a gacha system, which always makes it a little bit harder to recommend because of how predatory these systems can be, but it's a very, very free-to-play friendly game. If you do some research, you will find a lot of people that will echo that statement. You don't have to spend a dime. If you have solid self-control, you will probably get away beating every content of the game without ever spending a cent. But the possibility to spend money in the game does exist, and for some people that's already a no-go, so I just wanted to mention it. But for me personally, I've been having a good time with the game, and I enjoy the storyline, and again, if you like, you know, getting a little bit more into the depths of a game and optimize your characters, giving them better like weapons and leveling them up, and see like your damage numbers increase, which to some people maybe sounds super unappealing, but to me personally that sort of gameplay is really fun and rewarding. And I know I'm not the only one, because the game is currently doing really well. I think it's pretty hyped up right now, mainly I guess because of the storyline and the characters, but I think from a gameplay perspective it's quite popular right now, and I recommend that to people that are into that sort of stuff. I'm personally playing it. If you're around my Discord, I have a channel about the game there where we can chat about it. You could even probably find some other players to play or to add as friends and maybe discuss the game. Now, last but not least, a game that I've been recently getting into, and this could kind of apply to anyone. It's just a nice, short, quick game that could help you skip basically 2 or 3 days, maybe even 4 of this waiting time, but just diving into this kind of world, is Dredge. Dredge has recently been popping up in my Steam recommendations because it has the best possible ratings there, which is overwhelmingly positive. And at first I was kind of confused because Dredge is a game about fishing, or at least it seems that way. There's a lot more to Dredge than first meets the eye. It's essentially a game where you go out and yes, you work as a fisher, have multiple quests to do, which already might be interesting for some people. People love their fishing mini games. But as you progress, you uncover a much more deep, almost like Lovecraftian backstory that to some people might be really appealing. Again, Dredge is the same type of game that I kind of talked about in the sense of Outer Wilds. You don't want to know too much before you get into it. Maybe this will be the one game where the Steam reviews can actually get you to play it. Overwhelmingly positive is an extremely rare find on Steam. Usually with all of the popular games, some people have some issues about something in the game, but Dredge is really coming out on top there. I think the most common complaint I've heard people say is that it's relatively short, and obviously there's going to be people that are not even enticed by this entire idea of having kind of this mix of a relaxing game where you go out and do satisfying, the mini games around the fishing are actually really satisfying to do, and then also in combination with an interesting kind of like backstory or like that you uncover. I wouldn't say it's quite as deep as Outer Wilds or as in-depth, but yeah, honestly quite good. I wouldn't recommend the game to people that are really afraid of the deep sea. Let me add that up on top. I wouldn't consider it a horror game or nothing like on Subnautica level, but that might be another interesting bit of information that I do want to leave you there with Dredge. But I'm probably like 50% through the game, and I've been really enjoying it. I definitely see why it clicks with people. I'm not expecting it to be a tremendously long game I'm going to be thinking about for the rest of my life, but it's just a fun, really well-made game, and I really enjoy it right now. So maybe I could help you with one of these games. Honestly, my #1 recommendation, if you haven't played it yet, Outer Wilds. You have like the perfect amount of time to dive into this world and probably finish the game by Friday. Not by rushing through it, but that's like around the average time. If you can sit down every evening, play like 2-3 hours. And it's the weekend right now if you want to get a head start. That would be my #1 recommendation. If you want something more casual, maybe Dredge. And if you want to try out, because the only free game that I talked about here is Honkai Star Rail, if that sounds interesting to you at all, I think that is an interesting world to dive into. And that has helped me tremendously to kind of like get away from all of the leaks online and still have a fun time. And in fact, I'm going to be talking about this a little bit more tomorrow. What I've recently realized with avoiding spoilers, which might be kind of like nice to hear for some of you as well that are currently in the same boat and just get upset that people might be ahead of them and that they have to dodge social media. I kind of want to rant about that again tomorrow, and then we'll move on from the league topics because we are getting closer and closer to Tears of the Kingdom. Tomorrow I want to cover one more time. I want to talk about, and not the leaks themselves, but like kind of maybe leave some encouraging words for people to push through these last days of avoiding spoilers. And then we're going to wrap up the playthrough here. Maybe revisit some spots that I really want to revisit one more time before we leave this world. Again, tomorrow, if everything goes well, I will be releasing a new video on my main channel, LinCube, that I've been putting in a good amount of work already and will for the rest of the weekend. So hopefully you enjoy that. That might help you skip another 3 hours of the waiting time. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy your weekend. Maybe you get a new game to play. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.